The 76th character has joined Tacticus as Baraqiel, the Deathwing Terminator, comes in as the 4th Dark Angel. Today we'll look at whether they should be joining your team or just left to fall by the wayside. Coming a little while after Asmodee, we're finally joined by the 4th Dark Angel Baraqiel, the Deathwing Terminator. They will be joining us through this month's Inner Circle character release event. Deploying rapidly onto the battlefield via blazing teleport strikes, Deathwing Terminators pour heavy fire into their enemies or engage them in brutal melee. They are unbreakable elite of the Dark Angels that can conquer and hold any position. And so we have another character in Terminator armor joining the game, so we know he will be tanky, and his model is just absolutely gorgeous. There is just something so great about Terminator armor that really makes me happy to see it. As always in this series, we're going to take a look at 3 different things: how long it roughly takes to level him up to Diamond 3 when compared to other characters, his traits and general usefulness, how good he is in legendary events, and I won't be looking too much into his usefulness in guild raids or tournaments, as I leave that to our other wonderful content creators. So let's dive right in. To unlock Baraqiel, the new character release event Inner Circle will be starting on the 30th of June, and this is very much in line with all the other character events. It sees you collecting interrogation notes by completing missions, and then opening line chests to get Inner Circle shards, and then you can use these to unlock and level up Baraqiel. You can see the missions on screen now. If you need help with these missions and getting the best possible start, then definitely check out my beginner's guide to character events, which is linked in the description below. Basically, if you play through the tournament arena and spend 110 blackstone per day, we will definitely be able to pick up Baraqiel at epic level 1 and without the need to purchase any additional packs. And in the meantime, if you want to earn some free blackstone to help you on your way, you can use my Referral Code in-game today to get 100 free blackstone. Just note you can only use one Referral Code, so make sure you make the most of it. And now let's move to looking at roughly how long it takes him to level from Stone 1 to Diamond 3. The reason I say roughly is because my sheets don't take into account all the extra ways you can get free energy, like in the tournament arena, nor getting items gifted from your guildmates or from the daily shop. It also doesn't take into account any hard to get items that haven't been added in lots of places yet, but even with all that in mind, it's always interesting to see how they compare to the other characters. So Baraqiel follows the recent trends and comes in 69th position. He only takes 36 days to go from Stone 1 to Diamond 3, and his Dark Angel buddies are a bit more spread out, with Sarquel in 35th place taking 39 days to level, Azrael in 40th place taking 38 days, and finally Asmodee down in 72nd place taking 35 days. So Baraqiel is currently the second most difficult to level out of the Dark Angels. We can see all of that over here on the right hand side of the graph. Here's Baraqiel, and here are the other Dark Angels as well. It takes Baraqiel 3 days to go from Stone 1 to Bronze 1, another 2 days to go from Bronze 1 to Silver 1, 5 days to Gold 1, 12 days to Diamond 1, and then 14 days to Diamond 3, which of course all adds up back to 36 days. So it's definitely worth considering him from this regard, but let's see if he has anything worthwhile in his kit. Now let's have a look at his traits. He is an Imperial character with a Power 3 melee attack, no ranged attack. He has the Deep Strike trait to get into battle quickly. He has Crushing Strike to hit even harder in melee if he doesn't move. The Heavy Weapon trait, which makes him hit even harder in ranged if he doesn't move, and that's a really interesting trait to have for a tank. And of course, that lovely Terminator armor to reduce damage the first time he gets hit every turn. Moving on to his skills, his passive is Deathwing, and although it has a dual purpose, I would put this into the defense category of skills. It has 2 parts as follows. Each time Baraqiel blocks during an attack, all further incoming damage is reduced by up to 150. Also, his melee or plasma cannon damage, which is his active, is also increased by up to 150 for 1 round. One of the thematic things about this skill is that the effect is doubled against chaos enemies, or also if he's standing next to another friendly Dark Angel. Should this be prioritized as a skill over others? I think that yes, as a defense skill, this will definitely help his overall tankiness and damage, and this will be very important in legendary events at least. His active is Plasma Cannon, and this falls into the damage category of skills. This reminds me a little bit on Sarquel's active, Supercharge, as it's basically a shotgun blast to the enemy's face and those behind them. Specifically, it deals plasma damage to an enemy within 3 hexes, and then up to 2 enemies behind that target. The really fun thing about this active though is that it can shoot every other turn, so this tanky boy really does pack a punch. So he has some really interesting skills. As a tank, he'll definitely be useful in legendary events regardless of how many battles he could appear in. I really love this new type of active that'll let you fire multiple times, and yeah, like I said, I am surprised that he has the heavy weapon trait because I don't expect it on a tank, but it is definitely very welcome. He will do a really decent amount of damage. As another Terminator joins the ranks of Tacticus, that brings us up to 9 Terminators. And here's a pop quiz for you. Without looking, can you name all 9? I couldn't. I completely forgot about some of them. I'm also fully expecting that with the no Terminator battle in the beta track of Cairn's new legendary event this time around, I think we might see a Terminator battle in a track that bans Xenos in the future. So let's hope so. It also gives us 5 deep striking champions, but we'll talk about that a little bit more shortly. In terms of the modes that he fits into, I can see a really good place for him in legendary events, especially in a very specific team, which we'll also go into shortly. I don't think he reaches the heights of others in terms of damage to make him fit into guild raids, but he isn't horrible either. One mode he doesn't work very well for me is Guild Wars. Generally, deep striking champions dive deep and die before anything else happens, so personally I wouldn't prio him there, but maybe that's what you like. So who does he work well with? Firstly, he's a tank, he's Imperial. Instantly I'm thinking of Isabella Battle Ball. I've spoken about this setup a lot, and he definitely fits in here as well. He's a tanky boy with serious damage, and Isabella's more than happy to keep him alive. But if you want to have a hell of a lot of fun with him, how about that deep striking team of doom? It's Angrax, Aryak, Rask, Baraqiel, and Deathleaper. How much fun would that be in Tournament Arena? Of course it's going to get absolutely destroyed by a decent sniping team, but sometimes it's just going to get into the back line of an enemy and totally trash them. I think if you want to have some fun, that's definitely a team to think about. I think the last thing to look at is, does he play quite well with these other Dark Angels? And again, the answer is yes. Sarquel and Azrael for sure, although I don't see Asmodee really improving this team over others. I would rather go with Thaddeus Noble to increase Baraquel's and Sarquel's damage. Then, depending on the mode you're playing, you could add Mogan Ra for more damage, Isabella to heal, or how about Aryak to boost his Anvil Shield passive blocking even further. I love that idea, although it's probably a bit useless in practice. Overall though, I'm loving another tank in the game. For me as a legendary event player, there can never be enough tanks. So moving on to his legendary events, and we'll take a look at the new Cairn event as well. I'm still planning a deep dive into this. Today we can at least look at the new top 20 for this event, as well as where Baraqiel fits in. So let's start with seeing which battles he can take part in. Starting with the Regnar event, in the Alpha track, he takes part in the max 3 hits and melee battles. In the Beta track, he takes part in the min 3 hits, power, and no summons battles. He doesn't get to play in Gamma because it's not Imperials, and so that leaves him with a rather poor score of 295. My cutoff for a good score is 400, so he's quite a bit below this. If we move on to the Vitruvius event, in the Alpha track, he appears in the no Psychic, Power, and no Resilient battles. In the Beta track, he appears in the no Infiltrate and no Summons battles. And again, he doesn't appear in the Gamma track because it's not for Imperials. And so here he ends up with 260 points. Again, a really poor score. This is not going well. Let's see if Karn has more to offer. It doesn't start well, as in the Alpha track, there's no Imperials. In the Beta track, he appears in min 3 hits and no big target battles. And finally, in the Gamma track, he appears in the no mechanical and no flying battles. And here, again, it's a really low score of 160 points. And so moving to the best teams overall tab, now that we've seen these 3 scores, you can't be surprised that we're going to find Baraqiel all the way down in 62nd place. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit surprised by that, and it means that he doesn't really have a lot going for him, does he? So maybe not something so interesting for you legendary event connoisseurs. But let's have a look and see the new top 20 characters for legendary events. Who scores the most now that the Karn legendary event has been added? We can see that there has been some movement in the list, although not in the top 2. Kalandis and Abaddon are still kings of participation, and so well worthwhile for you to level them up. Maugan Ra is our new number 3 character, jumping over Typhus and Onshi, and Azrael has nearly fallen completely out the list, moving all the way down to 20th position. It seems like Dark Angels are not really made for legendary events, and so the ever-strong Shosil, Tyrant Guard, Revas, Maladis, and Nauseous Rotbone round out the top 10. If you want to level anyone for legendary events, any of those top 10 are certainly worthwhile. So what do you think of Baraqiel? Is this Deathwing Terminator going to be teleporting into your team, or will he be joining your other ignored collection of Dark Angels sitting at Stone 1? You can check him out right now in the latest version of the Google Sheets planner linked below.